You sold your house and now the buyer's saying that they can't close. No problem, you get the full deposit, right? It may not be that simple. Hey, it's Jordan from the JP Homes team at RE/MAX. I am here with good friend Jonas Rubinoff from Rubinoff Law. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good, thank you. No problem. Thanks for joining me. Want to talk today a little bit about deposits on purchase and sales for residential real estate. There's a lot of confusion, I think, and some people don't really know exactly what happens with the deposit once it's gone into a broker's trust account and who the deposit technically still belongs to. So I thought I would sit down with Jonas today and we'd talk a little bit about what happens, who does the deposit belong to once a buyer has given a deposit and it's being held in the listing brokerage's trust account. Is it property of the buyer? Is it property of the seller? If a deal were to go south, if a buyer didn't end up coming and closing on a property, what happens to that deposit once the deal falls through? So let me ask you first, Jonas, once a deposit is put into the trust account and it's being held by the listing brokerage, who does the deposit technically still belong to?
Well, it's a good question. It's a question that I receive often as part of my practice. There seems to be a misconception amongst buyers and sellers that, for example, a deal, like you said, doesn't close,
right.
Who gets the deposit? A lot of sellers will think that if a deal doesn't close, automatically they get the deposit.
Right.
No questions asked. The brokerage will write a check and it's done with. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's not that simple. Usually when a brokerage is holding funds, generally, they'll release it in two ways.
Okay.
Either by a court order or if both the buyer and the seller agree to sign a mutual release.
Right. So technically, if a seller is holding a deposit and on closing the buyer doesn't come and close the deal or finish the deal, they're not automatically entitled to all of the money that's being held in trust.
Well, whether or not they're entitled to it is a different story versus if the brokerage can release it.
Okay.
So they may be entitled. Obviously, it depends on the facts of the case. And,
right.
You should speak to a lawyer if you're ever in that situation. But it's not so easy. If a transaction doesn't close, the brokerage automatically releases the deposit.
Right. So I should change what I said. Not that they're entitled or not entitled, but they're not just automatically given the money that's held in trust.
Correct.
It has to go either through the courts or there has to be a mutual agreement between the two parties to release the deposit in whatever way they decide.
Correct.
Right? Cool. Well, thanks very much.
No problem.
Anything else you want to add to that?
No, that's it.
Cool.
Looking forward to the next one.
If you have any real estate questions, reach out to Jonas. If you have any real estate law questions, ask Jonas. If you have any real estate questions, ask me. Talk to you soon.